The air in Philadelphia changed when Brian Dawkins took the field. Not just electric, volatile. The moment he exploded out of the tunnel, chest heaving, fists clenched, eyes blazing through that dark visor, Veterans Stadium or Lincoln Financial Field became something else. It became a war zone, a sanctuary, a forge. Dawkins didn't play football. He didn't even hit people. He launched himself into them, soul first. He wasn't a safety. He was a warhead.
I think the very first time I did my bear crawl was in the vet. I was just so hyped, and I just thought of just crawling out like I'm an animal, like I'm going to eat. So I went out and did that, and the crowd went crazy with it. And my teammates were like, well, what's wrong with him? He's crazy.
And the most dangerous thing about Brian Dawkins wasn't his power. It was his pain. Brian Patrick Dawkins was born October 13th, 1973, in Jacksonville, Florida. A working-class neighborhood with hard lessons and harder consequences. His father, Ralph, was a man of discipline. His mother, Patricia, the emotional anchor. They raised Brian on church, family, and obedience, but also taught him that life would never hand him anything. As a boy, Brian was quiet, almost withdrawn. He didn't seek attention. But underneath that soft-spoken exterior was a storm. Confusion, anger, sadness that he didn't yet know how to explain. He found escape through basketball, then baseball. But it was football that ignited something deeper. The first time he hit someone and got cheered for it. It made sense. The pain had a purpose. The rage had a direction. At Rains High School, he was still overlooked. He wasn't tall, he wasn't bulky, but he hit like a wrecking ball and carried himself like a soldier. A Clemson scout saw past the measurables and saw the motor, the hunger, the fire. Dawkins accepted the offer, not because it was his dream, but because it was his only shot.
The way I play is I try to hurt people, and the way they play is they try to hurt people, so I think that me going there was a good decision for me.
At Clemson University, Dawkins blossomed and fractured. He became a starter, a star. He built a reputation as a player who would sacrifice his body on every play. Coaches adored his commitment. Teammates followed his lead. But behind the curtain, the pressure weighed on him like armor he couldn't take off. Brian began to experience severe bouts of depression. He withdrew socially. Some days, he barely spoke to anyone. He'd perform on Saturdays, then sink into darkness by Sunday. He didn't know how to cope. He didn't know how to ask for help. He was dating his high school sweetheart, Connie Karen, and even she didn't know how bad it was at the time. Years later, Dawkins would admit he had thoughts of ending his life while in college, something he kept buried deep beneath his outward toughness. Football was the only place he felt in control. He graduated with all ACC honors, but when the 1996 NFL Draft rolled around, 60 names were called before his. Brian Dawkins wasn't supposed to be great. The Philadelphia Eagles didn't care. The Eagles selected Dawkins in the second round, pick 61.
Hi, Chris. I just got off the phone with Jeff Lurie, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles. He says they're going to take a safety with this pick, Brian Dawkins of Clemson.
I had no indication that Philadelphia Eagles really liked me, but they kept everything quiet. Nobody knew that they truly wanted and they really liked me.
And from the moment he arrived, the match felt cosmic. Dawkins was a working-class weapon. Philly was a city of grinders, angry, passionate, demanding. He fit them, and they fit him. But he didn't walk in as the star. He sat behind veterans, waited, watched, studied. By year 2, he wasn't waiting anymore. Dawkins became a starting safety in 1997 and immediately proved he was something different. He played with reckless precision, aggression married to awareness. He'd time hits with near psychic accuracy. Receivers feared going across the middle. Quarterbacks feared misreading coverage. By the early 2000s, Dawkins wasn't just a star. He was a cultural force. But something else was happening, something deeper. Dawkins was building a persona, an alter ego, a mask, Weapon X. Inspired by Marvel's Wolverine, Bryan embraced the identity of Weapon X, not as a nickname, not for branding, as protection. Weapon X didn't feel fear. Weapon X didn't suffer. Weapon X didn't cry in the dark. So, on Sundays, Dawkins morphed. Teammates described watching him transform in the tunnel, screaming, stomping, convulsing like he was being possessed. Malcolm Jenkins later said, "He didn't walk onto the field, he emerged from it." And then there was that game. September 29, 2002, Week 4, against the Houston Texans. Dawkins had a sack, an interception, a fumble recovery, and a 57-yard touchdown catch on a fake punt. No player in NFL history had ever done all that in one game. He became the first safety in the modern era to make people question whether he was playing the same sport. He wasn't the best safety of his generation. He was the standard. Yet while Weapon X soared under stadium lights, Bryan Dawkins was suffering in silence. In 2001, Dawkins hit a wall. He was married, he had kids, he had money. And yet, one night, standing in his garage with tears in his eyes and a weapon in his hand, he considered ending it all. Depression doesn't care about stats. It doesn't care about Pro Bowls. He felt broken, defeated, alone. But Connie didn't give up on him. She saw the cracks and helped him seek counseling. He learned tools to cope. He dove deeper into faith. Slowly, he climbed out of the darkness and made a promise. If he survived this, he'd speak up. And he did.
It was really hard for him, and it just broke my heart to see him that way. He said to me, he said, "At any point, if you ever thought I did not appreciate you, I do."
In a time when almost no NFL stars talked about mental health, Bryan Dawkins stood on the front line. He talked openly about depression, about suicidal ideation, about therapy. He used his pain as fuel, but also as a beacon for others. From that moment forward, Dawkins wasn't just a warrior. He was a wounded healer. Dawkins played 13 seasons in Philadelphia, 9 Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pro selections. He forced 36 fumbles, picked off 34 passes. He finished with over 1,100 tackles. But the numbers don't tell the story. Bryan Dawkins was the Eagles' defense. While Donovan McNabb ran the offense, Dawkins was the fire in the locker room, the fuse, the detonator. From 2001 to 2004, he helped lead the team to 4 straight NFC championship games. In 2004, they made it to the Super Bowl. It wasn't just a run, it was a cultural movement. Philly had found its hero, but the ring slipped away. Still, Dawkins played on. Injuries mounted, his body aged, but his spirit never faded. Until 2009, when the Eagles let him go. No offer, no negotiation, just silence. Denver welcomed him with open arms. The city of brotherly love closed the door. In Denver, Dawkins did what legends do. He made the Pro Bowl, led the locker room, mentored young players, showed the same intensity, the same passion, the same screams in the tunnel. But deep down, he knew the end was near. In 2011, after 16 seasons, he retired. There was no grand finale, no championship parade, just a quiet goodbye from a man who had given everything. But in Philadelphia, something was missing, something spiritual. So in 2012, Dawkins returned, just for one play. The Eagles allowed him to retire as one of their own.
That's my number up there in the rafters. And that's my name under there, Bryan Dawkins. Still hard to believe. Still hard to believe. Of all the people that have played in this city for this team, They were retiring my number.
He walked out of the tunnel one last time. Helmet on, fists clenched, crowd shaking the stadium. Not as Weapon X, but as Brian Dawkins, the man. In 2018, Canton called. Brian Dawkins was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And when he took the stage, he didn't talk about football. He talked about pain. I suffered through depression. I went through it. I thought about taking my life. And for those who are going through the same thing, you're not alone. He cried, he trembled, and he inspired. For the first time, millions saw the entire man. Not just the gladiator, but the father, the husband, the survivor. His Hall of Fame bust didn't just immortalize a player. It enshrined a man who had every reason to give up, and didn't. Brian Dawkins is more than a football legend. He's a blueprint for how to turn pain into purpose, for how to play with soul-crushing intensity and still love with compassion, for how to be ferocious on the field and fragile off of it, and still be whole. Philly fans didn't love Dawkins because he was flawless. They loved him because he was real, because when he screamed in the tunnel, he wasn't just hyping up a crowd. He was summoning every ounce of trauma he had survived, every voice that said he'd never make it, every demon that tried to kill him, and turning it into fire. Weapon X was a spectacle, but Brian Dawkins is a miracle. He didn't just leave a legacy on the field, he left one in the hearts of millions. If this story moved you, drop a like to honor one of the greatest warriors the game has ever known. Subscribe for more stories that reveal the soul behind the jersey. And tell us in the comments, what does Brian Dawkins mean to you? Because legends fade from the field, but their impact never leaves the game.